Welcome to the Prophecy Club. Yesterday we talked about the bear, the Russian bear, growing angry. And I don't think that I really said all that the Lord wants me to say. I'm going to continue talking about the same subject, but from a different angle with a little bit different information. Because people everywhere these days are wanting to know, when will it happen? How long does America have before it falls? Stan, do you have any idea? As a matter of fact, conversation I had with one of my good friends yesterday, and we were talking, I was telling him about my book and the things that God has shown me and everything. And he finally stopped and said, Stan, we've been friends a long time. I want you to tell me. I want you to tell me your very best guess based upon all the information, everything the Lord has told you, this book and everything. How long do you think we have? Well, that's kind of what I'm going to try to answer for you today. How long do we think we really have? However, I'm going to do a little bit backwards, because usually I start with secular news. Why? Because, kind of sad to say this, the average American church doesn't want to hear about the Bible. They don't want to study Bible prophecy. They want to know about the news. And if I can tie it up with Bible prophecy, that's okay. But what they really want is more about the news. Yeah, well, I understand. But if you just follow the news without the Bible prophecy, then you're going to be like everybody else, and you're going to be, it's going to be the tail wagging the dog. Okay, whoever's putting out the news is controlling you, because you don't know what to believe, what not to believe. So Bible prophecy tells you in advance where we're really going. Then those things that stray off in the wrong direction, either to the left or to the right, or to up or down, we say, that doesn't line with Bible prophecy. We're not going to pay attention to that, you see. So today, let's start with the Bible. Then I'm going to bring you some information, some news that is going to help you to understand. And I think I can start with a little bit of good news. I can say that I do not think that the New World Order is imminent. Problem is that's not really your question. Your question is, Stan, when will it happen? In other words, how long is it going to be till America falls? Or really even a bigger question than falling, how long do we have before things begin to start falling apart? My life was messed with, and I can't buy groceries like I do or gasoline like I do. How long is it going to be before it really affects my life? That's where I'm trying to go. I'm trying to help you understand just how much time we might have of still this, what I'm going to call a wonderful life. How much more of the wonderful life do we have before that wonderful life may be gone? Let's start with Daniel. Let's go to Daniel chapter 5. And I heard of thee. Now here's the situation. You remember, okay, Nebuchadnezzar was the father. And he's the guy that got put out into the woods, and he had to eat grass. Nails grew like birds' claws, and for 7 years, okay? And he was given the heart of a beast. And I believe that Nebuchadnezzar is going to be the resurrected beast. He's going to be the beast that ascendeth out of the bottomless pit. However, his son is Nebuchadrezzar. Here's the situation. Nebuchadnezzar had called all of his wives and his concubines in, had a big party, and he commanded to bring all of the furnishings that had been taken out of the Holy Temple in Jerusalem some 70 years before this, and brought to Babylon. And he commanded the golden cups and things like that to be brought into him, and he was having a big party and drinking wine, and we'll pick it up from there because the kind of story fills in. But here's what we want to notice. I want you to notice what God does before he destroys a nation. Because what he's about to do, in this case with Nebuchadnezzar, pulling down the first Babylon, he's about to do pulling down the second Babylon. If we can understand what he did, how he led up, the steps, the warnings, if we can understand those warnings, brothers and sisters, then we have a very good chance of discovering what God is going to do in our nation in the near future. Okay, so let's go to Daniel chapter 5. We're going to start at verse 16. I'm going to try to not read it fast. I tend to, when I think someone is maybe getting a little bored, I tend to read it sometimes too fast. Sometimes reading it too fast is causing people to get lost. So I'm going to try to read this a little bit slower. We're going to kind of talk through it as we go through it because there's some real important points in here. And if we understand these points, we're going to see those points. Some of them we can already see taking place in our nation. But if we want to understand just how much time America might have, these points are going to give you, as well as me, a pretty good idea on where we are. Daniel 5:16. So they called in Daniel. They said, "You see that writing over on the wall? Let me just tell you, we have heard of thee, that thou canst make interpretations and dissolve doubts. Now if thou canst read the writing, and make known to me the interpretation thereof, thou shalt be clothed with scarlet, and have a chain of gold about thy neck, and thou shalt be the third ruler in the kingdom." That's some pretty good gifts. Then Daniel answered and said before the king. Now, let me make the first point. When a nation is in trouble, God speaks, but generally he waits until the last moment to speak to the leadership. Unfortunately, the leadership, in other words, in our case, Donald Trump, will be the last to be warned. But when he does, he sends his prophet. And that prophet walks in, and he walks in with the power and authority of God himself. And this king shakes, his knees shake. Bible doesn't say that, but he probably peed all over himself. He probably threw up. He probably shook so bad. The Bible does say his knees shook, they banged together. His teeth probably banged together. This was a man in trouble. I got a question for you. You think America's in trouble? If God were speaking to Donald Trump today, do you think Donald Trump would listen? If God sent a prophet of God with a message to America to the door of Donald Trump, would he listen? Well, the further a nation is from God, the closer they are to destruction, and the less they listen. And if Donald Trump would listen to that prophet, maybe we have a little time. If he would heed, I'm talking about when I say listen, I mean he would grant him audience. And then when he talked, if he would shake, I'm not talking about shaking hands, I'm talking about if he would shake in the fear of God, maybe we have a little time. I want to believe that he would invite a prophet in. I've heard of him having other people in. So I'm going to say I want to think that America has a little time. But there's some real important points in here. Let's go on. Then Daniel answered before the king, "Let thy gifts be to thyself." Oh, that's not good? When the man of God won't accept your gifts, that's not good. You're in real trouble. And may I also say that when God has spoken to your heart to give to a ministry, I'll even include our ministry in that too, that's a good thing. Because when he stops speaking to you about giving, you're in trouble. Just like when he stops speaking to a nation to be corrected, they're in trouble. This is not an early correction for this nation, for the first Babylon. This is the final correction. "Let thy gifts be to thyself, and give thy rewards to another. Yet I will read the writing unto the king, and make known unto him the interpretation." In other words, oh kingy baby, you're finished. I'm here to deliver final rights. I'm here to tell you you're gone. We don't want to wait to that point. Ask yourself, does the leader of our nation listen to prophets? Does the leader of our nation fear God? Does he go into church? Does he read his Bible? Does he get on his knees and pray? Well, a lot of that we just don't know. But I'll say a whole lot better than the predecessor. Let's go on. "O thou king, the Most High God gave Nebuchadnezzar thy father a kingdom, majesty, glory, and honor. And for the majesty he gave him, all people, nations, languages trembled before him." Now, when it says all people, nations, and languages, here's the way we say that today. Made him a world government. Far as prophecy is concerned, Nebuchadnezzar was the head of gold. Nebuchadnezzar was the first world government. You want to know where we are in the scheme of things? What you look at is world government. Question, is there a world government in place today? Answer, praise God, no, there's not. But if you want to know when the real end is coming, that's what you look to. We watch for world government. So that's the first thing I'm going to say to you. How close do you think the world is to a world government? How close do you think the world is to having everything run out of one house, one man in charge around the globe? I'm going to say if Hillary Clinton had won, we would be coming very close to it now. So Trump is a good thing. Trump moved us away. He's more for sovereignty. Remember when he went to that United Nations meeting and they wanted everybody to put on this little United Nations lapel pin? No, not him. He wore the United States flag. He's all for sovereignty. That's a good thing. So I'm going to say, as far as the end, the return of Jesus, the world government, I think we've got some time. But all of that depends on how we treat Israel. Donald Trump, the great negotiator, the great art of the deal man, he goes over to Israel. He twists their arm. He makes them give the Palestinians a state, and all of a sudden stick a fork in America. We're done. Once you see if America forces Israel to give the Palestinians a state, and I have that on several prophecies that they will, once that's done, we can sit back and we can watch the prophecies begin to come to pass. One of the largest and the most popular prophecies, the most important prophecies, is one given to my wife, Leslie Johnson. Let's go on, though. Thou, O king, the Most High God, gave Nebuchadnezzar, thy father, a kingdom, majesty, glory, and honor. And for the majesty that he gave him, all people, nations, languages trembled and feared before him. Whom he would, he slew. Whom he would, he kept alive. In other words, he had the power of life and death. Donald Trump doesn't have that. There's nobody on earth that has that. But that's how powerful this guy was. And whom he would, he set up. Whom he would, he put down. In other words, he ruled it all. But when his heart was lifted up and his mind hardened in pride, okay, that's the next point I want to make. Ask yourself, where is the heart of Donald Trump? When his heart is lifted up and his mind is hardened in pride and he will not humble himself, then you can look for judgment coming quickly. But I have seen Donald Trump lower himself, humble himself. I remember watching him. When I watched him, I followed him closely. I remember he was on the campaign trail, the early days of the campaign. He was speaking to a group of pastors. They laid hands on him. But I remember seeing him when he was walking away from the podium. Someone asked him, and he didn't intend to say this to the group, but the microphone caught it. He said, well, no, I've never asked God to forgive my sins. You know what that just told me? This brother has never heard the gospel. This brother has never accepted Jesus, but today we know he has. Someplace along that campaign trail, he humbled himself. He humbled himself. He bent the knee to Jesus. That's a good thing, brothers and sisters. So if you want to know how close America is to a fall, you look at our leadership. Well, right now, I believe that this is not talking fully, at least not yet, about Donald Trump. Because when his heart was lifted up and his mind hardened in pride, he was deposed from his kingly throne. And they took his glory from him. I don't think that America is real close to that anymore now. If Hillary Clinton had won, oh yeah, yeah, we'd be real close. Verse 21. He was driven from the sons of men, and his heart was made like the beasts. You see, I think he's going to come back again, and that's maybe a topic for another day. And his dwelling was with the wild asses. They fed him with grass like oxen. His body was wet with the dew of heaven till he knew that the Most High ruled in the kingdom of men, and that he appointed over it whomsoever he will. And thou, his son, O Belshazzar, has not humbled thine heart. Thou knewest all this. That's another thing we look for. The humble heart of our leader. We look to see, is he looking around for other Christians and their opinions? Does he look around? Does the heart, the opinion of Christians and Christian leadership, does it matter to him? Yes, it does. Donald Trump invites them in. He goes to sign a document, and you look back, and there's some leadership, Christian leadership there. He calls him in, he gets their opinions. That's a good thing. And as long as he continues to do that, as long as he continues to seek after the heart of God and to bless Israel, then we can know that we're okay. Especially with that bear getting angry. Yeah, there's some bad signs on the wall for America, but understand, it all depends upon our heart. Thou, O his son Belshazzar, hast not humbled thy heart, though thou knewest all this, but hast lifted up thyself against the Lord of heaven, and they that have brought the vessels of his house before thee, thou, thy lords, thy wives, thy concubines, have drunk wine in them, and thou hast praised the God of silver, and of gold, and of brass, and of iron, of wood, and stone, which cannot see, nor hear, nor know, and the God in whose hand thy breath is, and whose are all thy ways hast thou not glorified. Okay, that's the next point I want to make. Look at the leadership. Has Donald Trump humbled himself like this? Okay, so we hear the thing about Stormy Daniels, and he's supposed to have hopped in the sack with this good-looking gal, what was it, 12 or 13 years ago? Well, I'm going to say blood of Jesus. He didn't know the Lord then. That's all washed away. But I'm also going to say, I think I'm not going to hire Donald Trump to be my wife's chaperone. But see, I didn't hire him to be my wife's chaperone. I voted for him to be the president of the United States. And he is not running for the office of being my pastor. He was running for the office of being my president. In the light that that's all washed in the blood, and in the light that it was 12 or 13 years ago, and in the light that it really doesn't have anything to do with the job that I'm hiring him for, I could care less. Do I want all people to observe all of God's laws all the time? Of course I do. By the way, I want to do it in my life, and you want to do it in your life, but we're all challenged. But I think what it is saying is that Donald Trump has humbled himself to a certain degree. What I've heard is that when the new leadership, Donald Trump and his wife, Melania, went into the White House, they called for the other pastors and the Christians to come in and anoint the whole White House with oil, kick out all of the other gods, all of the other idols and the Muslim things, and pray over and clean and sweep and they had the whole place repainted and swept clean, and that's a good thing. That's a good thing. Yes, the bear grows angry. Yes, America has a lot of things that are wrong, but I'm still a bit encouraged. I'm going to say that in my humble opinion, I don't think that we have to worry about the Russians attacking us today or even this year. But I'll tell you what I'm watching. I'm watching Israel. We stab Israel in the back. We twist Israel's arm. We make Israel give the Palestinians a state. Stick a fork in us. We're done. Verse 24. Then was the part of the hand sent from him, and this writing was written. And this is the writing that was written. Mene, mene, tekel, upharsin. This is the interpretation of the thing. Now, let me just tell you what those words mean. Mene, mene is numbered. Tekel is weighed. Upharsin is divided. So what was actually written on the wall is numbered, weighed, divided. Let me say it again. Numbered, weighed, divided. I'll say it again because that's important to remember. Numbered, weighed, divided. You got this picture. So here's Belshazzar, the king's son, drinking wine out of these precious golden cups, offending God. This is blasphemy. This hand comes and writes, numbered, weighed, divided, in another language on the wall. Probably God had already spoken to Daniel. He had probably already been visited by an angel, probably in the night. He already knew that he was going to be called. He already knew what was written on the wall. Now, this is the point I'm trying to say. God warns his prophets. Surely the Lord God will do nothing, but he revealeth his secret to his servants, the prophets. Probably Daniel knew. And the reason Daniel knew is because God already knew. And this is another point. God knew before Nebuchadnezzar even had Belshazzar that this day would come. God knew that even before Belshazzar pulled in the vessels of his house to drink, wine out of them, and praise the gods of gold, silver, iron, brass, wood. He knew, because as they're drinking wine, let me tell you what history recorded. There was a big river that flowed through the city of Babylon. The Medes and the Persians had dammed up the river so that they forced the river briefly to flow around the city. That means that all of a sudden now this river that's flowing through the city that protected the city and wouldn't allow people to get in now went to a dry riverbed. And what Belshazzar did not know is as he's drinking wine, as he's praising the gods of silver, the water was being diverted. They already had armies of the Medes and the Persians coming in underneath the gate where the river used to be, but now it's just a big opening. Because God already knew that he was going to be drinking wine and committing blasphemy. He was already bringing the army into place. Now that's a big point. If we want to know how long America has, then we look at our enemy. Okay, who is it that's going to be attacking America? Answer: Russia, Cuba, Nicaragua, Central America, Mexico, and 2 other countries. Is Russia angry at us? Oh, yeah. Not as angry as they're going to be, but it used to be that there was not near the anger that there is today. And I suspect that they really are telling the truth, that they really did not kill this spy, that they were probably set up. I suspect that there are people that are egging it on, so to speak. They're causing problems. They're trying to get Iran to be a problem, trying to get North Korea and Venezuela to be a problem. And rest assured, all of the other nations, Russia, Cuba, Nicaragua, Central America, Mexico. Now, I don't have connections to the CIA and things like that. I can't tell you if all of those nations out there are now having secret meetings where they're planning. But I did watch TV, and I did hear that North Korea has gone over and talked to China. Is that a good thing? Well, maybe, because the Lord says, then God will raise up China and Japan and many of the nations. They'll go against the Russians. So in that Kim Jong-un just went in and talked to Xi, the president of China. Okay, so what did the talk say? Did China stab us in the back? Did China say, okay, here's what you do. You say everything you want to say to them, but here's what we're going to do. We're going to let you go over there and hit America with a secret nuke. We're going to let you get this war started so that we can bring down America. Now, they may be saying that, but that's not lined up with prophecy right now. What makes sense to me is happening right now that China really is at this point on our side. And my guess is that what's really going to happen is we're going to see some kind of a peace treaty drawn up with North Korea. Whoa, stand it. Wait. You've just been saying on the radio, we got these 3 or 4 other people talking about how North Korea is going to attack. Yes. But remember, brothers and sisters, but there is a difference between the dream is certain and the interpretation is sure. There is a difference between these are the true sayings of God versus a Nineveh warning. And it may very well be that those are Nineveh warnings, just like we hope that meteor is a Nineveh warning. We hope that America will straighten up so those bad things don't come. Those are not actually guaranteed. Now, it's guaranteed that Israel will be split. That's a guarantee. Meteor? No, that's not a guarantee. It's not a guarantee North Korea is going to hit us with a nuke. That's not a guarantee. That's a warning. Stan, you got it in the mouth of 2 or 3 witnesses. Yes, I do. Did God speak to Jonah to go to Nineveh? Yes, he did. No questions, written in the Bible, but it didn't happen. It was still a warning prophecy. Still, just because 2 or 3 people said it, it still could be a warning prophecy. It's not until he says the dream is certain, the interpretation sure. These are the true and faithful words of God. It's not until he says that. In other words, not until he says, you can count on this. See, he's already said, that America being attacked by Russia, he says, the judgment is set. Okay, in other words, we're not changing this. We're not backing up. That's going to happen. So how much time? Okay, now let's go to the final verses. So the hand comes in, writes in another language, and it says, mine tikel uparson, which means numbered, weighed, divided. Finally, they called Daniel, the last one. But you got to understand, Daniel already knew. He already knew. He already had the angel already come to him and said, okay, they're going to call you. This is going to be written on the wall. This can be what you're going to say, and you're going to interpret it. So Daniel walks in. In the meantime, the troops are already under the gate. They're already coming in. They're already moving into place. Daniel says, this is the interpretation of the thing. Meaning, God hath numbered thy kingdom and finished it. In other words, you've been found to be more evil than good. He's numbered your kingdom. And thou art weighed in the balances and art found wanting. Thy kingdom is divided and given to the Medes and the Persians. Then commanded Belshazzar, and they clothed Daniel with a scarlet, put a chain of gold about his neck, made a proclamation concerning him that he should be the third ruler in the kingdom. In that night, Belshazzar, the king of the Chaldeans, was slain. If you were in that position, the man of God, the prophet of God, just walked in and said, your kingdom is numbered, weighed in the balances, divided and given to the Medes and the Persians. What should you do? I'll tell you what I'd do. I would explode in tears. I would fall on my face, kicking and screaming and crying out to God, forgive me, forgive me, forgive me, forgive me. And I would repent until I threw up. Belshazzar, he didn't do that. He stayed in the flesh. Gives Daniel scarlet, chain of gold about his neck, tried to be the big man, trying to impress his wives and his concubines. Look, brothers and sisters, right now, not the time for America to try to be impressing somebody. Not the time for us to be saber rattling. Time for every one of us to fall on our face, exploding in tears, crying out to God, individually first, in our own prayer closets, every night. Then in our family. When's the last time you humbled yourself to your family? When's the last time you told your wife you're sorry? You didn't do something. Should have done something. Did it wrong. Did it too soon. Did it too late. Humbled yourself. In your church. In your business. Or you want to hold your head up high and your shoulders back. And you're going to be one that gives Daniel the scarlet, puts a gold chain about his neck. A golden chain. Are you going to be one that says, look how great I am? You want to know how much time America has? Look at our heart. I see a lot of pride. I don't see people going to church. I don't see them reading their Bible. I see them out partying, having a good time. Hey, I'd love to go see the Final Four. I don't have the money. I mean, I'm a Jayhawk fan from a long time back. Lived in Lawrence, Kansas for, 20-some-odd years. Love the Jayhawks. I don't have the money. But that's not important in my life. What's important in my life is that I walk with my Lord and I please my Lord. I'm asking myself, how much of that do I see in my country? How much of that do I see in my leadership? There's some things I like. But we are a bit numbered, a bit weighed in the balances, and we are a bit in trouble. Some people say we're a lot in trouble. So how much time do we have? I don't think it's imminent, but it's close. Now there's a test. What are you going to do with this broadcast? What are you going to do with the Prophecy Club? What are you going to do with the Prophecy Club? God's speaking to you to see that this ministry reach more people. You best be about doing what God tells you to do. Thank you for listening. Thank you for your prayers. And thank you for your gifts of support. God bless. Now from the Prophecy Club, some exciting opportunities for you. Over 150 conferences and 50 debates defending the King James Version gives Adam Johnson the right to tell us what is the best Bible version in his new triple DVD set called King James or 400 Counterfeits, available at prophecyclub.com. Gift of $45, prophecyclub.com.